Des Moines Register on the upcoming caucuses. We talked about it on this morning's Washington Journal for about 30 minutes.
Our guest at this point in the program is Selzer, who is director of the Des Moines Register poll. You've been making a lot of news in Iowa and all over the country with the poll that came out last night. Here's the headline: New Iowa poll, Obama widens lead over Clinton. For those who haven't heard yet, what's the story? Fill in the story here.
Well, Barack Obama is hanging on to the lead that we first showed at the end of November, and Senator Clinton appears to be landing in second place, although she's being challenged by John Edwards.
What about on the Republican side?
On the Republican side, Huckabee is also holding on to the lead that we first measured for him at the end of November. Romney appears to be headed for second place, but these things are still very volatile and things can change between now and caucus night. I think the other piece of big news on the Republican side is John McCain coming up to third place. He was really settled in the dust at the bottom of the Republican pile, had some company down there, but now he's risen to third place.
What does that mean for his chances?
Well, I think he got the Des Moines Register endorsement, and I think that gave a lot of Republicans permission to go and take a look if they weren't going to be a Huckabee person, and if Romney really wasn't turning them on. There's a lot to respect and admire about John McCain, and I've heard Republicans tell me that at least they would know what he believes. There wouldn't be the game playing, there wouldn't be the manipulation, there wouldn't be the secrecy. They might not agree with him, but at least they would know where he stands.
On the Des Moines Register website, the piece that they wrote about the poll, one interesting note here: roughly a third of likely caucus voters are saying they could be persuaded at this point to go somewhere else. How significant is that?
Well, it is significant. I mean, the caucus process allows itself to be fairly fluid. And I think you're finding a lot of people going to events during this holiday time because they've got some extra time off and they can go and see the candidates. Our poll showed that that was one of the most important things they could do in terms of making up their mind. And I've even had Democrats and Republicans say to me, look, I'm going to show up on caucus night, I'm going to give the precinct captains a chance to make their last pitch, and then I will finalize my vote.
Selzer is director of the Des Moines Register poll. Phone numbers are as follows: Democrats 202-737-0002, Republicans 737-0001, and Independents 202-628-0205. And a reminder about that Iowa line, just for Iowa voters, 202-628-0184. Selzer, this is the final poll before the caucus voting. Explain your methodology. When did you talk to people? How many? Margin of error, that kind of thing. How does a pollster work?
Well, a pollster who is faced with this particular prospect begins work by worrying a lot. A caucus is notoriously difficult to predict. You don't need to be a registered voter beforehand. You can show up and register on caucus night. You can be 17 as long as you're going to be 18 by the general election date and you're eligible to participate. You can change your party the night of the election. What we have done in the past and been successful with it is to work with an updated list, as fresh as we can get it, from the Secretary of State's office, and to call Republicans, Democrats, and Independents. We call all active voters on that list and screen them for whether they're likely to participate in the caucuses. We interviewed 800 from each of the parties. That is, people who were saying they were going to the Republican caucus or going to the Democratic caucus. I think that's the largest sample size out there. We were in the field starting on the 27th and finished on the 30th. So we have 4 days of interviewing from the field. And after that, we just thought with New Year's Eve it would get dicey. We just took our best shot given a very difficult situation, made more difficult by the date on which the caucuses land this year.
What do you make of the talk that, depending on which poll you read, the differences can be quite stark? We had a caller who phoned in earlier and said that they saw a poll on TV that was the exact opposite of yours in the Democratic side. What can you tell people about the varying numbers around the country as far as Iowa polling goes?
Well, I too saw a poll that showed Senator Clinton in the lead, another poll showing Senator Edwards in the lead. They're all very close races in those polls. And because their methodology isn't always transparent, it's a little hard to put poll next to poll and decide who's done the better job. What I can tell you is that we looked deep into the poll to see if there was a way for Senator Clinton to pull out a win, if there was a way for Senator Edwards to pull out a win. And it just looked to us like something very dramatically different from what our poll is suggesting is going to happen would need to happen, some sort of cataclysm in order for those things to happen. So we feel comfortable with where our poll has ended up.
First call for Ann Selzer, Orange, Massachusetts. Good morning.
Yeah, I wanted to know if her newspaper endorsed Barack Obama for president. And if they did,
no.
Is their poll kind of skewed towards him?
Ann Selzer.
No, in fact, our poll, the Des Moines Register endorsed Hillary Clinton on the Democratic side and John McCain on the Republican side. So I don't think there is any thing that there certainly, I can tell you, is nothing that happens where I'm told I need to come up with a particular answer in my poll. That's not the relationship we have. It's not the relationship any pollster would want to have with a client.
Who is the most popular second choice as far as your poll found out?
Well, the second choice analysis is actually more complicated than that. What I would say to you is we take a look on the Democratic side at the candidates that we think are going to have a hard time meeting the viability rule. That is, when the Democrats go and stand in their preference groups, they have to have at least 15% of the people in the room in order to be viable, in order to get at least one delegate. And if they don't pass that, then there's realignment. And we most often think people will go to their second choice, but there's time for that to happen. There's certainly a great deal of politicking that happens. They've got trained staff in place to make deals with different groups and really try to bolster their numbers. When we took a look at our own statistical realignment, the results really showed no difference from the top-line results that we're reporting.
Cedar Rapids, Iowa, for Ann Selzer on the Des Moines Register poll. Hi there.
Yeah, hi. My name's Stan, and I just seem to think that your polls seem to be quite skewed against Ron Paul. I know an awful lot of people that are supporting him. You see a lot of signs all over, a lot more than any other candidate, and I don't think your polls at all, you know, represent the feelings of Iowa towards the frustration of this against the establishment.
Caller, what number percentage did you see for Ron Paul?
Well, I was at a meeting the other night, and they have him coming in third place. They feel that he's in third. I was at a caucus training meeting. And I'll tell you, there's a lot of very upset people out here with the establishment, and they're all for his issues like national security, not letting the UN run our country, you know, not becoming the world's policeman.
Thank you. You have a minute fourth now, Ann Selzer, at 9%, huh?
We do have him tied for fourth, I think, with Fred Thompson. And that's a better showing than he's had in any of our other polls, so it certainly shows that there's support for Ron Paul rising in Iowa. There's nothing in our methodology that helps us tip this one way or the other, either in favor of a candidate that we think should be getting more support. I mean, the thought doesn't really even cross our minds. But certainly there is pressure for polls to look a particular way, and certainly we know that people who are support of particular candidates, some were delighted this morning when they went out to their doorsteps and got their paper, and some were furious. And that's just the way polling works.
It's an interesting time because of the holidays and the voting so close together. You mentioned a lot of folks can attend rallies because they have more time off.